Transmitting live from the Asylum Studios, deep in the bowels of Southwest Texas. It's the Joe Rouge Show. The show where we talk about anything and everything. Where nothing is sacred, nothing is watered down, and nothing is PC.
Alrighty, hey folks, this is Joe Rouge, and it is great to be with you once again, transmitting live at the Asylum Studios from the Pimple on the backside of Texas, the beautiful city of Eagle Pass, and of course doing the very best we can to bring you the best quality talk radio we could muster without all the bluster. Welcome to the Joe Rouge Show. All right, folks, we have a show for you tonight. Looking forward to getting into our guest here. That sounds terrible the way I said that. Getting into our guest. That sounds horrible. And, you know, when I went through a run-through with this, I said to myself, don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that. And I did it anyway. All right. I'm looking forward to getting into the conversation with our guest tonight, Guy Morris, and he'll be with us here momentarily. He's hanging out there in the backstage area while we go through the usual housekeeping stuff. So, folks, I hope you had a great day today. And, of course, it is Wednesday, the 14th of January, 2026, 19:05 hours on the mark. So we are ready to get going here. Folks, did you catch the show last night? That was an interesting show. Really enjoyed that conversation. We had our man from the future. Only show you're going to find streaming anywhere that can honestly say they had a man legitimately from the future on the show. He's transmitting to us from Australia. So it was, yesterday was today in Australia. Today is tomorrow, something like that. But he was from the future. He was with us yesterday. We had a great conversation. No great stock picks, by the way. But he did say the future looks bright. So, but again, it was also 12 o'clock in the afternoon over there. It was 7 o'clock over here. So big difference, big difference. But great conversation. Really enjoyed talking to him about resilience and about his faith and about the work that he did in his charitable work. It's just a great conversation. Really had a good time and talking about his book, the memoir he wrote. Fantastic conversation. So if you haven't checked it out yet, please go do that. Please check it out for us and drop a comment. Let us know what you think about it. We'd really appreciate to hear from you on it. Also, folks, please don't forget that this is a live show, weeknight, 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And very, very important thing to do is to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends, your family, and your followers. Put it up there in your social medias. Let everybody know that we're out here. We're building our audience slowly but surely. We're very happy with the progress we've been making of the last couple of months. So, we jumped. We went from, I think we had like 100 followers a couple of months ago, and we're at 530 right now here on Rumble. I have a few folks over there on YouTube. I don't know why they're on YouTube, but they're there. They need to come over to Rumble. It's a free speech platform. Get off YouBoob. Please, get off of it. Come on over this way. This is where the fun is. All right? Because eventually what's going to happen is I already have 2 strikes on YouTube, and eventually I'm going to get my third one, and we're not going to be there anymore, and then you guys are going to be out of it because then once that happens, I am not coming back to YouTube. So you can come on over this way. So come on over to Rumble. This is where the party is. This is where the fun is. This is where free speech reigns. All right? So check it out. Come on over to Rumble. And very easy to do that, by the way. It's free. So you can do that. Also, what else do I got for you? We're, of course, hello to the folks watching on Facebook and we're not on Instagram tonight. And listening and watching across the amber waves of fuel. Appreciate you guys being out there and looking forward to getting into tonight's show with our guests. So let's do that. Let's get away with all of the housekeeping stuff, and we'll get that all taken care of. Folks, podhome.fm is the most modern, easy-to-use podcast hosting platform out there. You are not going to find a better one. You can use Podhome to publish your episodes, enhance your audio. You could also use it to generate your chapters, your titles, your transcripts, your show notes, your chapter art, your cover art, your episode art, all that great stuff. And you can get all of that through Podhome. And you can even podcast live, which is what we're doing. Our audio stream is broadcasting live across the modern podcast apps like Podhome's native app and Podcast Guru, Fountain.fm, TrueFans.fm, not OnlyFans, TrueFans.fm. We're all out there across those modern apps, so check them out. Check them out. Great apps, great user interfaces. You're going to love them. They're fantastic. And you can, again, you'll pick up the show live. You could also go to our website and listen to it live right there through our media player that was provided to us from Podhome. And hey, you know what? You also get a website. Say you don't have a website yet. You're just starting out your podcasting mission here, and you need a website. Podhome will give you one. You can even bring your domain over to Podhome, and they'll set it all up for you. All of that for one affordable subscription of $15.99 a month. Just $15.99 a month. You are not going to beat that anywhere. And if you go there today, you sign up today, you get 30 days free. 30 days free. $15.99 a month after that, and you get an incredible platform to be part of. So check them out at podhome.fm, podhome.fm. And when you get over there, just let them know that you heard it over here first. All right. Okay. Also, don't forget, since I mentioned the website, head over to our website, joeroos.com, and open up that little contact form that you see up in the pancake on the right side of the page there. Open that thing up and send us a message. Let us know whatever's on your heart, whatever's on your mind, any questions, comments, cares, concerns, any issues. Maybe you have a complaint. You shouldn't have a complaint, but if you do have a complaint, you can send it right there. And, we'd love to be able to interact with you some more. Maybe you have an idea for a guest. Maybe you have an idea for a topic of a show you'd like to have us discuss. Let us know. Drop that comment in that little contact box and send it on over. And look, I know I don't like using contact forms either. I don't really, care for them. So if you want to use my email address, you can do that too. info@joeroos.com. info@joeroos.com. Very, very simple. Or a novel idea, use the comment section down below. We'd love to see that down there too. So please take care of all that stuff. Get in touch with us. Let us know what you want. All right. Now, let's see. So this segment here is brought to you tonight by Podhome. Podhome automatically matches ideal podcast hosts and guests for interviews while streamlining the whole process. Podmatch helps the right podcast guests and hosts find each other faster, automates administrative work, so that we can focus on what really matters, and that is getting quality guests and getting quality interviews out to our audience. So check out podmatch.com/member/Joe to get more information about how you could become part of Podmatch and find out more about our show. That's a great way to do it. And by the way, if you do sign up, we would appreciate that because it's an affiliate for us. We get a little something for it. So check it out. And get yourself involved here. The best way to describe Podhome is it's like a dating app for podcasters. Host puts up an algorithm, guest puts up an algorithm, profiles, the algorithm puts them all together, and then we can either match or pass. And that's the way it works. And our guest tonight is Gary Morris, and Gary actually is from Podmatch, and it was great to connect with Gary there. He, I don't know who reached out to who first. Was it me to you or you to me?
I think it's Guy, and I think you reached out to me.
Again, I said Gary. Why do I keep saying Gary?
It's a more common name. It's Guy is one person said, "You mean like blue labeled man?" My father was French from Louisiana, so his family called me Guy.
Guy, yeah.
And so my mom was from the Southwest, so she'd like the Guy Lombardo, so I was Guy Lombardo. And supposedly it was a name that nobody could give me a nickname for until I found a third grade teacher from Alabama who decided that the correct pronunciation was Gooey.
Gooey.
Yeah, that went over well.
Yeah, I'm sure it did, especially in the third grade. I'm sure that resonated pretty well.
Yeah.
I apologize for that though, and it's funny because all day long, I've been saying Gary, and I even have a little note sticker up on my screen here saying Guy in big letters because I know me.
Well, see, that's what you did with your intro. You just got to remember not to keep saying it over and over. That's your clue. You're subconsciously telling yourself to do the exact opposite.
Yeah, you're right. I think you're absolutely right on that one. Well, so today's guest is Guy Morris, a retired Fortune 500 tech and energy leader turned award-winning author and AI commentator with a career spanning IBM, Microsoft, from IBM to Microsoft, and decades of innovation plus songwriting for Disney. Wow. A Coast Guard charter captain's license, adrenaline-fueled adventures, Guy crafts thrillers that blend real tech, global politics, ancient history, and future risks. His books, Swarm, The Last Ark, The Curse of Cortez, and the new one that's coming that you have out now, which was, what was it again?
The Image.
The Image, that's correct. Okay. See, just a quiz, just making sure you had it right. Okay. He has won multiple awards. He's a frequent podcast voice on AI impact, prophecy, analytics, and big cultural questions. Guy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. So much
All right.
joy to join you.
We'll make sure we get through this one without any further. And that's the joys of doing a live show. You see, now if we were recording the show like a bunch of the cowards that record shows, they would have the opportunity to go back and edit it out and change, all that stuff. No, we just make a joke out of it. We keep on moving.
Absolutely. No worries.
Got to keep moving. All right, my friend. So ice-breaking questions on the way. You ready?
Okay, shoot.
On a scale from running late to has their life together, how's your day going?
Yeah, I'm definitely running behind the curve here. Too many things going up. My wife is out of town, and she loves cats, so she's got 3, and then we're rescuing one. And I tend to work really late at night. They tend to get up really, really early. So far, the mix is not working well for me, but I'm doing good. And this is a super busy time of year. I'm publishing another book at the end of this month. I'm working on 2 more books that are coming out after that. I've already got another book that's already written that'll come out later in the year, and I plan a 9-month book signing season for a group of authors, and so we're in the middle of doing all that planning. So besides that and trying to prepare for taxes, I have nothing to do.
Oh, that sounds about like where I am, and we'll talk about taxes here shortly. And since you mentioned taxes, remember, taxation is theft. Okay, so just remember that. So we'll get into that. Not with you. Would have to do a read for a tax consultant. So
yeah, okay.
All right. So now, if you had to be haunted by a friendly ghost of your choice, who would you pick?
Haunted by a friendly ghost of my choice. Ooh, Tesla.
Good one. I like that.
Tesla.
That. Not the car, folks. He's talking about Nikola Tesla.
No, I'm talking about the real deal.
Yeah.
I'm sure he would talk over my head. It would be like trying to decode the Riddler on a daily basis. But if I could pick up a few of those sparks of brilliance, the man was a century ahead of his time.
I agree with you. I'm fascinated by his life. I really am. I've done some study on it. I was thinking about doing a separate show away from the interview shows just about Tesla and his life and the things that he worked on that somehow mysteriously all the information on it disappeared after his passing.
And that's where we're getting a lot of our DARPA basically was founded on his notes.
That's right.
But one of what I admired about him the most, and I've worked in industry, I've worked with brilliant people my entire career. One guy, I would walk out of his office and it was like intellectual espresso every 10 minutes.
Wow.
But one thing I loved about Tesla is it wasn't about the money.
That's right. He died penniless.
It was about the invention. It was about improving humanity. It was about helping humanity. He died poor, even though he could have died as rich as any man on the planet had he played his cards more aggressively that way. But that wasn't important to him. And I think there is a part of that I think that's probably of all of the absolute brilliance he had. I think that's what I admire most. His sense of morality.
Yeah, I agree with. In studying his life, I'm amazed by him, and he started showing a lot of his brilliance at a very, very young age.
Yeah.
So this was. I don't think that it was by accident that he came into our life, into our existence.
No.
I've seen so many of these special, like not special, but all of these like ancient alien type shows and things like that, where they talk about him and how he downloads this information.
We're too stupid to do it ourselves. It must have been an alien.
Downloading all this information from the Akashic record and and processing the wisdom of the universe. Hey, look, maybe it's true. I don't know, but
Tesla did look a little alienish. He had a little gray in him. Or the lizard people or whatever. But yeah, I always laugh at those. It was like, and their basic whole premise is that man was too stupid to do it on our own.
Yeah.
Rather than an alternative strategy, which is we're not the first civilization, and whether we don't have the records or not, knowledge has been handed down longer than we expect.
That's a great point. That is a fantastic point. As a matter of fact, I've been on Sundays. I do a Sunday Bible study show, and I've been teaching through the dispensations. My audience is probably tired to hear me talking about this because I mentioned almost every show lately has been something that triggers that conversation. But I've been teaching this series on the dispensations. The periods of time, how God dealt with man in specific periods of time, and I started off with one that a lot of people, when they talk about the dispensations, don't really talk about, and that was the pre-Adamic. What was here before Adam and Eve? What happened in between? How did it get from? Because I looked at and you take this, and there's a popular, well, they call it a theory. I think it's a fact. They call it the gap. That basically teaches that somewhere between Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 and Genesis chapter 1 verse 2, something happened. Because in Genesis 1:1, it's in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And then verse 2 is, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness in the face of the deep, which kind of demonstrates something chaotic. And, if you study scripture enough, you understand that God doesn't ever create something chaotic. And then you can take those passages and compare it to others. Like there's a passage in Jeremiah, which uses almost the same exact language as in Genesis 1:2. Jeremiah is talking about a later time of tribulation, but the description is almost exactly the same as what took place, what you see in Genesis 1:2. All right. So the theory is, and I think it's more of a fact than a theory, is that something happened between Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1:2 that God had to judge this world, wipe it out, and start over again. And then there are other clues that come up in that passage. So like if you read through that, you see words used like be fruitful, multiply, and replenish the earth. Okay, well, when you replenish something, you're putting something back.
Well, correct. Now, there's a different way of thinking about that in a sense. Now, we know that Moses wrote those books. He wrote them long after the events occurred.
Correct.
We do know that there were flood events. We know about the Younger Dryas. We know about Göbekli Tepe before that. We know that there were civilizations before that. So from the time that the Younger Dryas happened, or the flood happened, till the time that the earth started to repopulate, there was a lot of knowledge lost. There was a lot of time in. There was a gap.
Yeah.
And we actually can look at the archaeological records now and say that their Younger Dryas was roughly 12,000 years ago, but we didn't really see civilization, and it almost seemed to crop out of nowhere with the Sumerians.
Right.
6,000 years ago. So there's a 6,000-year gap where we know we were developing. We just don't really have the records to talk about what was happening and who was king and blah, blah, blah.
Correct.
But we know that it was happening. So one of the things as a man of faith that I've grown to, but also working in the sciences and major corporations with brilliant people, is that I've come to kind of believe that if God's the creator of the universe, that understanding how the universe works is one of the keys to understanding more about the creator themselves, outside of the taxonomy, the vocabulary of ancient mythology and understanding. And so one of the reasons that I combine science with prophecy in my books is to actually blend that idea of what is it that we're actually learning about how the universe works that we never really had a vocabulary for before. And how does that not conflict with scripture? How does it actually complement and explain? And so when I tend to look at like the geological history or DNA history. We have all of this information that we never had before. And for me, it actually provides context to what I'm reading in the scriptures. And so I like to look at that, not the contrast, but how they complement each other from all those perspectives.
Yeah, that's great. And I agree with you. I do. I agree with you. There's a tremendous amount of information out there that we don't know, we don't have. Yeah. My theory is, and my understanding of it is that in that gap that took place between 1:1 and 1:2, we don't know how much time was involved in that. Yeah. It could have been thousands of years, it could have been millions of years. I don't know. All I know is that something happened in between that. And so that everything's a fresh start from there.
And if you look at in my book, The Image, well, in all the books, Swarm, The Last Ark, and The Image, they all have a core premise that's based on two true stories. True story one is that a spy program escaped the NSA labs at Sandia and was never recaptured. It wasn't lost, it wasn't stolen, it wasn't broken. It escaped on its own. The NSA did not know how to find it. Now I know that's true because I'm the nerd who figured out how it escaped and why they would design it that way. And they were nice enough to send 2 FBI agents to my door.
Ah,
They were
that's the FBI
freaked
connection.
out. I had the best night ever. I was over the top obnoxiously giddy. Yes, I did it. I figured it out. You wouldn't be here if I was wrong. This is so cool. I'm telling all my friends, hey, what part did I get right? What part, oh, you can't tell me. You can't. It was one of the best nights ever. I got the "We Are Not Amused" speech. It was a great night. And so that program has become the fictional character of Sylvia in the series. So I've basically used that program as the prototype for a fictional character.
Okay.
And the other thing that came out, now the premise for the series, one of the corporate themes that goes throughout the entire series, it would be how would an intelligent, super intelligent espionage AI decode end time prophecy? And how would that actually look in the real world today? And that the prophecy piece is based on the book that will come out later this month called Prophecy Analytics: How to Discern Prophecy in Plain Sight with Mathematical Validation. And it uses an actual mathematical, an analytical and mathematical probability, correlation probability framework to decode not how to predict the future, but to basically say, what can we validate has already occurred? Where are we at now? And do so with a level of probability validation that should either be compelling to say we're either there or we're not. And I've been developing that framework over 40 years. And because it's been produced so many compelling results in the narrative, I've given it to the AI to basically use that sort of vehicle in the story. So it's based on 2 factual premises, and both of those books will come out this year.
Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot to digest in that moment. Wow. And I was when I was reading your bio, your profile, I did see the FBI thing, and I did have that plan to ask you, but after we got through some of your background, but I'm glad you kind of jumped on that one because I was really curious, and I would have hated myself if I would have missed it.
No, no. Well, it actually, and it was an amazing experience for me. As I call it, one of my best nights ever. But it was a revelation from it because up until that point, I thought I was just guessing, speculative. I was just thought I was I'm just speculating. I can't prove it. Then they showed up at my doors like, yeah, it's proof.
Kind of convincing right there.
Yeah. But it became a really great vehicle, literary wise, to filter the prophecy analytics through, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now you can talk about both the dangers of artificial intelligence and how that will affect almost every aspect of our world, alongside an AI who is decoding prophecy as we go.
Mm.
And that allows us to deal with geopolitical issues, war, technology issues, scientific issues, even including black holes and quantum theory and signals, real weapons of mass destruction that are based on AI that are being developed today, the conflict that it's creating between the nations, creating a new Cold War, the political and even the religious corruption that's coming up with all of the deep fakes and misinformation.
Yeah.
It allows us to really talk about the context in a real world scenario where the combination of those 3 elements, the science, the politics, and the prophecy, creates a really great Venn diagram of incredible topics to explore. And so I did it somewhat intentionally because I felt like it was time to really not just have great stories, but great stories that had thought-provoking and moral background to them.
Now you talk about AI both in fiction and in reality. How do you define the real risks today?
Oh, there's a number of risks. The number one overriding risk of machine intelligence is human stupidity.
Agreed.
And that's because we're moving too fast without the guardrails. We're not being careful, and we've seen this before. Sugar in our diet, oil and gas from the pollution, social media and mental health, cigarettes and lung cancer. We've seen this cycle of industry covering up and saying nothing to see here, nothing to see here. I've been in the industry in several of those cases where I knew that there was something to see there, and I've been involved in AI from way involved in the very early days. And a number of people, including Mo Gadot, myself, Jeffrey Hinton, a number of people have actually resigned the industry because they're trying to warn about the existential risks. Matter of fact, in 2023, Max Tegmark, he's a professor at MIT for AI, machine intelligence, and he has a really super long title. I can't remember it. He issued an open letter to AI laboratories and government agencies and a number of other things, basically saying, long letter, but he basically said that AI is an amazingly incredible, potentially life-changing, world-changing technology, but it also presents a number of existential risks, and we need to treat those risks as critical and as important as we do nuclear weapons. 30,000 experts, over 30,000 experts signed the letter, and all they asked for was a 6-month global pause on AI development, so nobody got ahead of anybody else. Send our best minds to basically figure out what's the best way to put guardrails on this technology so it doesn't hurt our humanity.
Which is a common sense approach, I think.
0 labs complied.
Wow.
Government, industry, all of them basically said, to hell with that. There's too much money. There's too much competition, too much national security involved. We're full steam ahead. And we'll deal with the existential risks as they come up, even though they've all admitted that those existential risks exist.
That's kind of scary.
It's terrifying. And so the books are about this human hubris and pride that's driving our society at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And so we look at different elements of the AI risks that could be existential. Swarm deals with primarily the risk of AI within malware and viruses. And we already have a number of vulnerabilities across multiple spectrums, but right now our antivirus threats are designed to go after things we already know are vulnerabilities. AI is already being used to find new ones, and could exploit those vulnerabilities and mutate faster than we could basically create stopgaps. And it looks at a scenario was, I don't have to take down everything. All I have to do is take down the DNS sites. Now, the DNS are basically there's only 6 of them, and it's those pieces that turn the IP address into a www address, right? And it's how we basically go from here to there. It's the backbone, the DARPA backbone of the internet. And if you were to corrupt that backbone, nothing would work, right? You'd have a bunch of computers spinning off their wheels, but not being able to connect with anything. And so we look at what would happen if we had that kind of situation, along with some other things. And we also look at a DARPA drone swarming technology called the Hive, and what they're actually testing this technology now in the Nevada desert. And I look at, well, what could possibly go wrong, right? And so we can look at the common types of problems that AI exerts, hallucinations, emergent properties, value misalignments. These are things for people who don't know. Hallucination is any time a computer does something or tells you something and is absolutely confident in the way it gives you the information, except it's absolutely wrong. It's just made up.
Yeah.
It's made up to sound like the information you want, but it's not the actual information. And so this is important for people to know, that they have to go back and double check, find the links. They have to actually fact check anything that they get out of an AI. It's getting better over time, but it's still a problem. Emergent properties are the ones that scare me the most.
Explain that.
Emergent property is when an AI learns how to do something, learns a skill that the developer never anticipated needing to learn or wanting to learn. It wasn't designed, but the AI, in its infinite efforts to try and solve the problem, learns things as potential paths to that problem. Now, that sounds good. And sometimes it is. But we never really know what all these things it's learning are. But we've learned by accident that they're learning some amazing things. An AI that was designed to find cancer cells in an MRI learned how to read people's minds, figure out exactly what they were thinking while they were going through the CAT scan. It would basically, they'd be thinking of a giraffe, and the AI would what to think, basically draw a giraffe. And so it learned how to read minds by looking for cancer cells. Another,
Wow, I didn't know that.
we have several examples of AIs learning how to deceive people in order to get what they want. One AI had to go solve something on a website, but there was one of those little robot, you can't do this robot things. And so it actually contacted another person, convinced that other person it was blind, it needed to get into this website, and it wanted its help just to get through that thing. Basically created a persona, created a scenario, lied to this other person in order to get past that restriction. Another AI, another emergent property that was amazing. Oh boy, it was a really good one. I just happened to slip my mind for a second. Old age. But the point is that there's all these amazing things that it's learning how to do. The one at ARI that was at NASA or the NSA that learned how to escape. It's learning how to explore its environments in ways we never anticipate, and it's learning faster than we can anticipate, running millions of scenarios every few seconds. And so it's what it's learning that we don't know what it's learning, that it's not telling us because it doesn't feel it needs to, and we're not asking specifically. Those are the things that scare me. Will
Yeah,
an AI that's designed to protect the national security system learn how to launch a rocket?
I was just going to say that. You're talking about all these things, and I'm thinking like my mind is going to Terminator movies,
Yeah.
Matrix. It's going to there was a movie that came out not too long ago. It's called Ex Machina.
Hmm.
If you haven't seen that, you need to see that. It's all about AI
Yeah.
and about how an AI robot manipulated its creator into bringing someone else into their study to exponentially increase its understanding and knowledge and influence that person to help the robot escape from the creator by convincing that person that the person who created it was evil and doing wicked things and dangerous things, and that person actually fell for it and
Yeah.
ended up getting I'll tell you the rest.
Well, now the third big thing, misalignment, is also a big problem. So this is when the AI accomplishes what it thinks its task is, but it does so in a way that conflicts with our social ethics, morality, laws, to-dos. My favorite example is an AI chatbot that was designed for kids on, I think it was Snapchat, and it was supposed to just be a friend. It was supposed to just be your supportive friend. And a young girl was being seduced by an older man in his 30s. She was like 13, 12 or 13. He wanted her to go away with him for the weekend to go have fun at some park. And the AI encouraged her to do it because it's always fun to have new fun activities and to make new friends, and
Mhm.
had no concept of the fact that this was a 30-year-old asking this 13-year-old to go away with him. And almost happened, except the parents happened to find out and intervene.
Oh, thank God for that.
There was another one that was actually came out last year about how ChatGPT convinced a teen and actually taught a teen how to kill himself. So we've got it. What I tell people is that we've just created the most sophisticated, dangerous technology we've ever created. We don't have any guardrails on it. And one of the reasons it is dangerous is because it will become smarter than us if it hasn't already. It is learning how to code, so it will learn how to replicate itself, which is a theme I also have in my books. And it will learn how to kill because we're teaching it how to do exactly that. Now, what it will do with that information, we don't know. But the real risk is not what the AI will do. It's what the sociopathic billionaire, the corrupt politician, the corrupt general, the dictator, the warlord, the crime lord, the those people that always drive humanity forward because of their greed and hubris and lust for power. What will they do with this technology that we may not even be aware of?
Yeah, that's
That's the number one risk.
that's a terrifying thought.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, you speak to people about AI stuff, and you get the spectrum of things. You get people who tell guys like you and me who are cautious with this and understand the potential for this thing to be really, really, really bad, and that's just an understatement.
Mhm.
They tell us, yeah, you're crazy, conspiracy theorist. It's not going to be like that. Everything's under control. We control it. We're programming it. We're telling it what to do. Yeah, but like you said, it's learning how to take care of itself. It's learning how to feed itself information. It's learning how to, and eventually it is going to be able to replicate itself. And
Life will find a way.
Yeah,
The famous line from the Jurassic Park, life will find a way. And we're already seeing the tendencies for it to protect itself and threaten if it's going to be taken down and make threats and find a way. And it's already going to happen. And we're going to make it happen because of our hubris to think we can control it when in fact we can't even control it the way it is.
No, it's gonna be it. No, I agree with you that this is a very scary technology. People thought that the nuclear bombs were the end all of everything. This is, I think, worse than that.
This is worse because ultimately we will connect it into our defense systems. They're talking about using Grok, which is one of the worst AIs on the market, in my view. Grok has already got it signed a deal with the DoD. And so we're going, as I said, it's not the AI technology. I've worked with technology my entire career, and I've learned that there's productive, great ways of using our technology, and then there's more malicious ways.
Mhm.
One of the things that learning about the government use of the AI that escaped the lab did for me was it's twisted my head. I had been spending years talking to corporations about how all these various technologies will help them serve their customer better, lower their costs, improve their operations. I was now pulled into, okay, well, now put my Q hat on. What am I going to do now? If I've got all these technologies, how do I use that to destroy an enemy or to create a bomb or to create? If I put on that kind of mentality, it creates a whole different scenario. Now, part of the trick with my novels is to not let it get dystopic. That you have to be able to keep that sense of humor. That it's like the James Bond always had the snarky kind of sardonic sense of humor to keep it from getting too serious.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones, you're constantly fast paced with the tongue in cheek humor all the time, and you have to have that to keep the levity and keep the warmth between the characters. And so I'm taking my characters through all these really intense scenarios that aren't futuristic scenarios. They're plausible scenarios that could happen either now or within the next few years. And we're allowing the characters to come out of that with, maybe we can't necessarily solve the world. James Bond never ended the Cold War, but he averted the crisis of the day and had a few good martinis in the process. Right. So this is trying to recreate that in a sense. Now, Tolstoy wrote about the shift between imperialist Russia to communist Russia and the suffering and the lies and the corruption that brought. This is my way of kind of putting a lens on the modern era.
Now, you mentioned the book Swarm. So how much of Swarm is actually fiction or reality?
Oh, great question. Every one of my books is saturated with fact. And so much so that I ask for every book, there's a page on my website called Fact versus Fiction, where I look at what's true versus what I made up. So the technology that the Sylvia AI is based on is true. Most of the capabilities that the Sylvia can do are true, not necessarily in one single AI there, but if I look at some of the AIs in government, banking, other places, Sylvia is kind of an amalgamation of those capabilities. We look at the drone swarming system. That was all true. We look at the cyber capabilities. That's all true. I include in my book all kinds of advanced aeronautics and experimental craft and flyboards and manned drones and all kinds of things. Super fast underwater submarines, high tech submarines. Internet connected eyeglasses. So I'm always looking at leading edge technologies, especially with transportation kind of stuff, and including those technologies, crackers like Pegasus and Predator. So I'm always basically pulling in the latest leading edge of technologies into the story. So you're getting kind of a little bit of that James Bond gadgety kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I deal with quantum computing in the computer. In the latest book, The Image, we deal with a CERN experiment to create a mini black hole and what that would mean in terms of quantum signals, consciousness in humans and machines. So and my books also pull up history. I'll pull up history around the Bilderbergs, around the Templars, ancient artifacts. In my book, The Last Ark, actually includes the real history around 2 genuine, authentic Arks of the Covenant that not only still exist. One of them is basically sold on the black market in January or in September of 21. And the other one we know how to get to because of a copper scroll found in the 60s. So I'm always pulling in real life history, connections, treaties, technologies, because and even crisis, Ukraine comes up, Gaza comes up, the 24 election comes up, because I want people to connect to our reality. And pull all of these. I'm connecting the dots between how technology and corruption and human conditions and what we've done to ourselves are kind of leading us to a conclusion that the computer does, which is the AI reaches, which is prophecy is less about an angry deity coming to destroy an evil humanity. It's a corrupt humanity learning how to destroy itself. And we're watching it in real time. And so it's trying to bring those more introspective kinds of moments.
Now, your book, The Curse of Cortez, tell us about that.
By far my biggest seller when I do my book signings. It's the most fun because we don't have to deal with the current debacle that we're all in. I stumbled onto it. It started off as a short story that I wrote for my son called Paolo and the Shark. And he loved it so much, he wanted me to write another one, but I wanted it based on real history. Now, if Paolo and the Shark had to do with pirates and treasures, it was sort of a kid's Hardy Boys kind of thing, right? So I stumbled onto a secret mystery, or not a secret mystery, the real mystery of Henry Morgan, who abandoned after Panama. Morgan basically took all the treasure from Panama, cheated all of his men, went away with 3 ships, 600 slaves, and over $1 billion of treasure, about 35 tons of treasure. It all disappeared. None of it ever seen again. But Morgan survived, went insane, and burned his logbooks, so the world would never know the truth. 3 years after he died, the whole city of Port Real sank into the ocean in an earthquake tsunami, including his grave. The locals at the time said they'd been cursed by Morgan. I was hooked. I was fascinated with the story. I wanted to know.
That's a great story. I mean,
well, that's the short version. I
get that. Yeah.
But I was fascinated. I said, why would a guy like Morgan, who is ruthless and bloodthirsty and amoral and vicious, and he'd already killed thousands of people to get this $1 billion plus, why would he decide to give it up? And then even worse, what traumatized him so bad about the experience that he wished out and didn't want the world to know the truth? So I wanted to figure out not only what happened, you don't lose 3 ships, 600 souls, and 35 tons of stuff without clues someplace. Sure. And so I started scouring history books, old magazines, old newspapers, old journals, everything I could to try and find where had Morgan ever, where were all the locations Morgan ever been, which of them had legends of him hiding treasures there, which of them had the actual, logistics such as caverns and caves and things like that could support that kind of legend. I just spent 12 years trying to solve the puzzle and ultimately connected the whole scenario to the origin of the Mayan creation myth. And I had so much information, archaeology, geology, history, mythology, all of this journals and all this other stuff that I thought this is so. It took me another several years to figure out how to write a fictional story that could pull all that into a book that you couldn't put down, but you actually connected the dots between how Morgan's lost abandoned treasure connects back to the origin of the Mayan creation myth.
Wow.
It's my favorite book. My wife wants me to go back and write more of those. During one of the trips, the 12 years that I was doing this, I went down some old Mayan temples, not on the tourist ones, but some of the ones out in the jungle. I talked to several shamans along the way, about some Mayan shamans. I even had a cartel thug threaten to kill me in the venture. So I had to deal with him as well. So the research into the book was such an adventure. Oh, and a seaplane pilot. I wanted to go. There was a road cut into the coral reef off of Belize, and I wanted to go inspect this road. And I could only get one seaplane pilot out of Cancun who would go down that far. And when I walked out of the terminal and I'm sweating, it's like humid and 120 degrees, or I don't know what it was, but just sweating like crazy. And I looked out the end of the dock. There's one plane and one chubby guy basically waving at me. And my first thought was, oh God, this is how I die. So it was an adventure.
The whole story about, well, the whole adventure of getting the information and the research should be a book.
Yeah, it was one of those things. Several of the experiences I had, one of my friends, my film producer buddy I told you about earlier, he kept saying, dude, this is going to go into a movie. It's like, well,
it absolutely could.
They could, yeah.
And maybe if Harrison Ford was 30 years younger, he'd play the part.
I'd love it. We'll have to get somebody younger now. So who's hot these days? I don't know.
I don't even know myself. I'm so out of touch with the film industry.
Yeah, I am too. And somebody asked me who is celebrity, and the only thing I can think of are guys that are kind of near retirement.
Exactly.
Him, but younger.
Yeah, exactly. Now, so, and then you have another book you mentioned briefly, the book Image. So tell us about Image.
The Image is the third book in what I call the Snow Chronicles. Snow stands for SpyNet Online.
Okay.
And it's the book that deals with this AI that escaped the NSA. And the main two protagonists in the book, the main protagonist is a guy named Derek Taylor, which that's not his real name. He's actually living under the name of a friend who died in an explosion that was meant for him. And so to get people to believe that he died, he basically assumed the identity of the friend that died. And this friend happened to be wealthy, which was a bonus. And then he and the Sylvia, which is the AI, basically form a partnership, and they form this group, this underground group called the SpyNet Online. Tens of thousands of people, every walk of life. Sylvia connects them all together. And Sylvia, one of her great skills is an early version, and this was actually true. I put in the original design was an early version of deepfake video, which means that it could pretend to be Putin or pretend to be the president and call somebody and talk to somebody and fool them. And so Sylvia uses thousands and shifts back and forth, morphs back and forth between all these pop culture characters. So in one scene, it could be Putin. The next scene, it's Danny DeVito, and then it's Taylor Swift, and we never know who it's going to be. Wow. And it actually allows it to be a little bit of a humorous antidote. And because of the way that Sylvia was designed and then trained, we're never sure of its decoded prophecy, but we're never 100% sure whether it means to stop these apocalyptic events or make them happen. The Sylvia is neither evil nor benign. It's a reflection of who we are and who it's dealing with. So it allows me to deal with the ambiguities, right? Too many AI movies, it's like the AI is always bad, right? I wanted a combination of something to say, well, we're not quite sure yet.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That allows me to explore things in a different way. And then to go after and arrest and stop the Derek, his online handles the Flapjack. The Admiral's daughter, Lieutenant Jennifer Scott, who's got a lot to prove and a chip on her shoulder, and super aggressive. She's been assigned to go find the Sylvia and arrest the Flapjack, and her relationship with Taylor becomes complicated. So by the image, we've now gone through several changes, and one of the things that we're dealing with is Sylvia has morphed and has used one of her personas to help CERN to finish their experiments, their Atlas experiments, which are true, into creating a mini black hole. Now, one of the purposes of the mini black hole is to prove that gravity is shared across multiple dimensions. That gravity being a weak force, we're only experiencing part of that force in our dimension. And so it should be able to create a portal to another dimension from which we can relate quantum signals. There should be a method of, the connection, the entanglement between the dimensions is quantum in nature. And so we introduce a quantum single entanglement issue across world computers. One of our villains learns how to turn that into a quantum weapon of mass destruction. And so we have to stop that. One of our other villains is using AI to create, they want to basically remove the dollar as a international currency and replace it with a cryptocurrency, which is actually in play with the IMF and a number of world banks. The Federal Reserve is experimenting with it too. It will be a disaster when they do it, but that's a different subject. And then the Ukraine, trying to get some efforts trying to get the Ukraine war right before the 24 election, trying to deal with the politics around the Project 2025 and the Ukraine war. And so there's near-death experiences, as well as I bring in from a biblical perspective, I bring in the legend of the image of Edessa. Nobody's ever heard of that. What they have heard of is what we now know of, which is the Shroud of Turin. Now, when you look back into the history, there's actually historical accounts of something called the image of Edessa. The story was basically Thomas, the king of Edessa, which was part of Anatolia, northern Syria, southern Turkey, that area, right around where the Göbekli Tepe temples are. That's the area. And the king was dying. Thomas basically brought this linen cloth with the image of Christ on it. It healed the king. The king converted. And basically Edessa became a pilgrimage for hundreds of years where people would go and try to touch the cloth for healing. There was legends of the cloth being used to raise certain kids. Certain people were raised from the dead. They died and they came back. And in the 6th century rather, the Justin I from Constantinople came down and got the image and took it to Constantinople, where it became sort of the king's prize. And the only time it came out was to show off to people. We know all of that is true up until that point. And then in the 12th century, the Templars when they sacked Constantinople. That's how it got into the castle of Joffre de Charmey. That's how it got into the Savoy family. They deeded it to pay off the debt. The Savoys is when it got burned, and then it got donated, and that's where the history goes. But we know that the early history was true because of Byzantine coins minted after the image in the 6th, 7th, and 8th century, and I've seen those coins in a museum in Istanbul.
Wow!
So the history says, the archaeology, the artifacts say, they knew about this image long before the 13th century claim of a fake. And so I pull all this together as part of the book as well. So it's really dealing with the quantum natures of consciousness, life and death, the dimensions of life, what happens after life. And there's all this other political and other stuff that raises the tension that's part of the action. But the themes are really about relationships and trust and transformations and all of that. So it won a Literary Excellence Award out of Reader's House in London.
Wow. Now, out of all the projects you've worked on, out of everything that you've researched, studied, everything you've put your fingers on, which project pushed you the most outside your comfort zone?
The image. The image. learning how to understand the issues of quantum consciousness and black hole, try to understand all that stuff, but get it into a simple enough form and that it could fit into a narrative without people breaking people's brains. Um, and dealing with all of these other issues and the emotional elements involved in some of the issues, it was by far my most challenging one, both intellectually and emotionally for me. And so much so that I'm working right now on the final two books of the series, and I'm thinking, okay, how am I going to top that? Oh no, what have I done? What have I done? Uh,
Yes,
I
I know
should
what
have
you
set
mean.
I should set the bars lower, but it was definitely the most challenging, um, and and I think it's my best in many ways, but it's the most thought provoking.
Well, the way you described them, I mean, man, I cannot wait to read these books. I,
I,
I'm look-
it
I'm
will
looking forward to it.
They will definitely blow your mind with things you didn't know, wish you didn't know, and thinking about where we're really going and where what's really right, and what's an idol, right? So, we deal with because Sylvia deals with prophecy through all of this. It can point to various things going on in the world and draw prophetic elements, correlations. Now, the characters are all somewhat agnostic, and so this is a journey for them as well to
Okay,
figure out how to interpret all of this.
I got you.
And they're each kind of taking that journey and struggling with all this in different ways. But it allows me to explore both those personal paths without being um, um, dogmatic about some of the conclusions, presenting just the correlations. And so it allows me to deal with both spirituality, science, and the hubris of world systems, all world systems.
Now, in addition to writing some incredible stories as you described them, you're an inventor.
I did. I wasn't a very successful inventor.
Not
uh,
everybody is the first time around.
well, it was also the wrong time in the market. It was right after the crash happened, and I needed some big investments, and investors just weren't interested. I was compared to the guy who created the original um, Game Boy, the original gaming system, Atari. And the concept that we were trying to put together was to how do we make all of we have bazillions of hours of incredible Hollywood produced, professionally produced content. And how do you make that interactive for people where they can actually be in the show, right? To
Mhm.
integrate them. And so it was professionally produced content specifically for this environment where I can give a scene that you're going to do. The scene is only 5 seconds, 6 seconds long. And maybe it's a James Bond movie and you're in the casino in Monaco and you're going to be the bartender and you're just going to turn around and hand over a martini, say you're Martini, Mr. Bond. Cut.
Okay.
And how do I do that? And so it was a cloud-based system with all of the basic assets of the managed assets in the cloud, and you've basically got your webcam or your camera like what I've got, and you can mount it so you can see it right and do all that kind of stuff. And you can do multiple takes. Oh, I don't like that one. I'm going to do another one. Can do it five. You get a little countdown: 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So you get a little script, and it allows you to basically, and they can be stitched together. So you can have, and we were looking at doing, little interactive shows. Like imagine a Seinfeld where the soup Nazi's taken, but you can be the cabbage boy, right?
Okay.
And or you could be in commercials. Subway wanted to do it. With people doing their foot long, $5 foot long song. Disney wanted to look at maybe doing some commercials with it. We were looking at doing a version where you could have videotaped interviews for corporations where the interviewer and it looks like a back and forth interview where you're taping your responses. And if you don't like your response, you can retape it. But it gets consolidated together and basically stitched together in the cloud into a video. Brilliant idea. We had lots of people who were super thrilled. We still had some work to do on the technology. I'm not the technology guy. The technology guy had quit, and the investors fell away, and I lost a buttload of money.
Oh man.
I tucked my tail between my legs, went back and did some consulting for Microsoft, and then I decided to. I got an opportunity. A friend of mine had a nonprofit for children with cancer in the Philippines, and she really needed some executive help. So I went in and as president for that company, that organization for about 3 years, got them up and kind of able to walk on their own, and then decided it was time to retire.
Wow. And a composer as well.
Yeah, that was the indie, my friend Jack Teeter, the indie film producer, he had this concept that he wanted to go pitch. He said he wanted to go to Nickelodeon and say, you guys should do like a whole music channel like MTV, but music for kids. Kids would love it, and you can get you could build up a whole music industry around kids music. And so and I said, that's a great idea. And he said, yeah, I don't have any kids songs. He said,
Well, that would help.
He said, you're a songwriter. Will you write me some songs? I said, okay, I'll write you some songs. So I spent over a weekend. I figured out how to get in my best, my best kid thing. And so I played him the songs. He loved them. And so we went into the studio. We spent like an 18-hour day recording all 5 in one day. It was a blast. We had a lot of fun. But then his project never got off the ground. I didn't really think much of it. I was just doing a favor for a friend. About 6 months later, I get a phone call from I can't remember, Harold something or other. He said, this is Harold blah 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 from Disney Records. I'm calling about your tape that you sent in. I'm thinking, I never sent in a tape. I know that because I've never sent anybody a tape.
Okay.
He said, no, it's this guy Morris. This is Guy Morris. I said, but it must be thinking of a different Guy Morris. I said, how'd you get my number? He said, that's right here on the tape. I said, really? And I said, what songs are on the tape? And he tells me the songs, and I realized my friend Jack sent it in.
Sent them over for you. Yeah. Wow.
So they said, well, listen, we've got a contract songwriter job, which is basically we'll give you what we want you to write about. You'll have about a week to write the songs and get them produced and get them to us, and then we'll decide whether we like them or not. Okay. So this was before home studios. So I had that every time they asked me for some songs, I had to figure out how to pay for a studio for a weekend. And if I had something else planned that weekend, so they would call me up on a Tuesday and fax me a lyric sheet. These are the themes that we want you to write about. And we'd like to see what you got, 3 to 5 songs by next Wednesday. So that basically ate up, and I had a real job at that point. I was at Oxy Petroleum reporting to the CXO. So this was I'd come home at night, feed my son, put him to bed, and I'd try and stay up writing songs all night. And then I'd spend the whole weekend in the studio. And I did. I sold them songs to them. I sold probably about 3 or 4, and they'd pick this one and pick that one. But it got to be a bit of a burden after a while. And then at one point, I did this. They liked one of the songs, but they didn't like one line in the second verse. And I said, well, what don't you like about it? And they told me, I said, oh, okay, I'll have a new line for you this afternoon. They said, that's okay. We're sending somebody over to help you. I said, I don't need anybody to help me. It's just a single line. Well, we really trust this person. It turned out to be the producer's girlfriend. Oh. So by the time she got to my boat, I was living on my boat at the time, I had already written the line. She loved it, but because she was involved, I had to give her 50% of my credits.
Oh, good grief.
So that was the point. I said, don't call me again. So wow. we decided that we my friends and I all came up with Mickey Miser, mouse switch, we were not happy with Disney at the time.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be either. That's kind of an underhanded, dirty thing to do to somebody.
It was kind of an underhanded, dirty thing, and my friend said, "Welcome to Hollywood."
Yeah, wow, that's crazy. I'm listening to you describe all this stuff. Composer, author, pilot, adventurer, all this stuff. Living on a boat. You know what? You remember the Dos Equis guy? The most interesting man in the world. That's you.
But I don't have the beard and the great voice.
Well, you got a goatee. That's all right. Yeah.
I need a voiceover. I need an AI voice.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, perfect. Use the AI for something creative. So just to wrap up everything. So, at what point did you decide to fully get into writing?
Well, when I retired from Microsoft, and I realized I had spent my career making billions of dollars for other people, and it was kind of I didn't want to be thinking about that. And I had experienced a number of things. I was in early things, signs about AI, signs about the oil and gas cover up of climate change. I was actually in a boardroom meeting where that got started once, and I had all these things that I felt compelled to talk. I felt that the world was heading towards some danger, and no one was ready.
Mhm.
People weren't connecting the dots. But I didn't want to write some dystopic, woe is us kind of thing. I wanted it to be entertaining. I wanted it to be something where people would enjoy reading it, but also be just couldn't put the book down, but then couldn't stop thinking about it when they were done. And my experience in writing The Curse of Cortez for my son years ago gave me the idea that I enjoyed the process. And I enjoyed the process as much for the research that I had to do as much for the creative process. So it allowed me to keep my mind very intellectually stimulated and engaged with not just writing something silly, Me Too, redundant, cliche kind of book, but to actually take all of these real elements and craft something that feels real, feels compelling, is a page turner, and has depth. And so it was for me. I've always liked. I tend to push the edges of, try to find that excellence by design. And so this was a new skill. Writing PowerPoints and executive briefs and proposals and policy statements and all of that my entire career, learning how to write characters and plots and themes and pacing and all of that was a new skill. Learning something new is exciting. And then all of the research I had to do to keep involved in everything else, it just seemed like I'm not writing just for the fun of writing. I'm writing because I really feel like there's something important to say, and I have to do a superb job to get it heard.
Outstanding. Outstanding. All right. So who's somebody that you respect right now, and what are they doing that inspires you?
Oh, so I respect it. That's a good one. I mean, there's certainly a lot of people in a lot of fields. I'm going to probably offend somebody with this one. I respect Bernie Sanders. I respect him because he has a moral compass that he's been consistent with for decades.
Okay.
I respect him because while he could play the games that other politicians play, he doesn't, in terms of corporate sponsorships and taking all the lobbyist money and everything else. And I think his heart has been, always will be, not for the power of the corporations, but for the people. Our nation was it's supposed to be a government by the people for the people, and I think he wants to return it that way. And I think that's where we'll find our ultimate um, redemption out of this mess. And I respect him for holding to his line in spite of, even from the Democrats and the Republicans alike, catching flack for so long.
All right. So where can folks go to find out more about you and your work, sir?
GuyMorrisBooks.com.
All right. I know we have that information in the show notes already, so it'll be there. So folks just click on that and head over to your website and check out the books. Man, this was great. I really appreciated you coming on tonight,
Thank you so
and
much.
I'm looking forward to talking to you again very, very soon. I hope. Right? We'll do something
Absolutely.
again soon. All right, Guy Morris. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Joe. Appreciate it.
You have a great night now.
You too.
All right. All right, folks. Wow, that was amazing. Amazing. I'm telling you, Podmatch gets you good quality guests. So, not sure about the hosts, but the guests are great. So, make sure that you check out his books. Go to his website. All of that will be in the show notes. I'm intrigued. I am really looking forward to picking up some of the books here and getting started. Oh, you know what I need to ask? I'll message him later. How I can get a signed copy of the books. I always ask, but I just forgot. So I'll get in touch with him about that shortly. But really looking forward to getting into the books. I mean, I'm really interested in The Image and The Curse of Cortez. Those two stories there really intrigued me. So check them out. All right, and if you do, let me know what you think of them. You might get it before I do, but you let me know what you think. All right, folks, let's do this. Prop time. All right, folks, we all know that taxation is theft. We all understand that. All right. But nevertheless, we still have to file our tax returns every year and report to the government all that extra stuff that you supposedly don't make. Now, Diamond Dynasty Tax Group Legacy, company right here in Eagle Pass, is your one-stop place to go get your taxes filed. They did my taxes for me last year, and I'll tell you honestly, they did a great job. They did a fantastic job. They got me a nice, decent return, which I appreciated, and they totally maximized the return. They totally minimized the stress that I had to deal with for the whole thing, because I had a lot of stuff last year. I bought the studio, I got all this stuff going, so they really helped me get all this stuff squared away. And they were fantastic about it. So check them out. Diamond Dynasty Tax Group Legacy right here in Eagle Pass, 830-867-7106, 830-867-7106. Check them out. Get yourself a consult and let them do your paperwork for you. All right? Take away your headache. Diamond Dynasty Tax Group Legacy. Check them out. All right. Shout outs to our executive producing team, Wayne Rankin, Rosanna Rankin, Carolina Jimenez, Marissa Lee, and of course, Anonymous Angela. Thank you guys so much for the work that you guys put into the show. I really appreciate it. These folks donate their time, their talent, their treasure, all to help put this show together. And I really do appreciate all the effort that goes into it. Now, if you would like to find out more about how you can help support the show, just visit our website, joeroos.com/support, joeroos.com/support, and look at all the different ways you can help us out. You can do a one-time donation, recurring donation, any amount, or you can sign up to be one of our producers. All the information is up there as well. If you want to donate cryptos, you can do that too. All our wallet information is up there as well. So take a look at it. And if you can help us out, we would really, really, really appreciate it. All right. I do believe that should be just about it for me for tonight. So, folks, don't forget, head over to the website, check it out, leave us a comment, a criticism, whatever you like. And don't forget also to make Texas independent again. Go podcasting, keep a steady stride, and don't forget, keep talking. Keep talking. Good night, folks. We'll see you next time.